Something extraordinary is happening to the way people travel. As the sun dips below the horizon, a new kind of adventure is just beginning. Cities that once rolled up their sidewalks at dusk are now coming alive in ways that would have seemed impossible just a few years ago. Night tourism is no longer a niche interest reserved for partygoers or insomniacs. It has evolved into one of the most powerful and fastest-growing segments of the global travel industry. And by 2026, it is completely reshaping how destinations market themselves, how travelers plan their trips, and what we consider to be a meaningful travel experience. The numbers tell a striking story. Tourism boards from Tokyo to Lisbon are reporting that after-dark experiences are driving significant increases in visitor spending, hotel occupancy, and overall trip satisfaction. Travelers are no longer satisfied with checking off landmarks during daylight hours and retreating to their rooms by 9 in the evening. They want the full spectrum of a destination, and that includes everything that only reveals itself once the stars come out. This shift did not happen overnight, though the irony of that phrase is not lost. It has been building steadily, fueled by a combination of social media culture, changing work schedules, a growing appetite for unique experiences, and some genuinely breathtaking innovations in how cities and natural landscapes present themselves after dark. To understand why night tourism has exploded the way it has, you have to look at what modern travelers are actually searching for. The era of the passive tourist, the person who simply shows up, takes a photograph, and moves on, is fading. Today's traveler wants immersion, emotion, and stories worth telling. And there is something undeniably powerful about experiencing a place at night. The atmosphere shifts completely. Familiar landmarks take on new dimensions when bathed in carefully designed lighting. Crowds thin out, creating a sense of intimacy that daytime visits rarely offer. The sounds change, the smells change, and the entire emotional register of a destination transforms. There is also a psychological element at play. Darkness has long been associated with mystery, romance, and a loosening of everyday inhibitions. When people travel, they are already stepping outside their comfort zones, and nighttime amplifies that feeling of being somewhere truly different. This is why experiences like ghost tours, night markets, bioluminescent kayaking, and stargazing retreats have seen their popularity surge so dramatically. They tap into something primal and deeply human, the desire to explore the unknown. Social media has accelerated all of this considerably. A photograph of a glowing lantern festival or a neon-lit alleyway in Seoul at 2 a.m. carries a visual impact that a midday shot of the same location simply cannot match. Platforms built around visual content have essentially become advertising engines for night tourism without anyone explicitly planning it that way. Travelers see these images, feel the pull, and start building itineraries around after-dark experiences rather than treating them as optional add-ons. Certain cities and regions have recognized this trend early and positioned themselves as world-class night tourism destinations. Amsterdam has long had a reputation for its nightlife, but in recent years the city has invested heavily in light art festivals and illuminated canal experiences that attract a completely different demographic: families, culture seekers, and older travelers who want the magic of the city after dark without the noise of traditional nightlife. Singapore has taken night tourism to an almost architectural level. Gardens by the Bay's nightly light and sound show has become one of the most visited attractions in all of Southeast Asia, and the city-state continues to expand its portfolio of nocturnal experiences, from night safaris to rooftop dining under laser-lit skies. In Morocco, Marrakech's famous night market at Gemma El Fna has always been a draw, but tourism operators are now building entire multi-day itineraries around the evening transformation of the Medina, when the square fills with storytellers, musicians, and food vendors in a spectacle that feels like it belongs to another century. Japan, always ahead of the curve when it comes to experiential tourism, has developed what it calls night economy districts in cities like Osaka and Kyoto, where traditional cultural performances, illuminated temple gardens, and late-night food experiences are packaged together into coherent after-dark journeys. Even smaller destinations are getting in on the action. Dark sky reserves in places like Iceland, New Zealand, and rural Ireland are marketing themselves specifically to travelers who want to experience the night sky in its full, unobstructed glory. And these destinations are seeing record visitor numbers during what were previously considered off-peak seasons. The economic implications of night tourism are enormous and still being fully understood. When travelers stay out later, they spend more. They visit more restaurants, purchase more from vendors, take more tours, and extend their overall trips. A study conducted across multiple European cities found that travelers who engaged in structured night tourism activities spent on average 40% more per day than those who did not. Hotels have responded by rethinking their offerings entirely. Late checkout options, midnight concierge services, partnerships with night tour operators, and specially designed evening packages are becoming standard rather than exceptional. Some boutique hotels are now marketing themselves specifically as bases for night exploration, with staff trained to recommend after-dark experiences and transportation arranged for late-night returns. Tour operators have seen perhaps the most dramatic transformation. Companies that once focused exclusively on daytime excursions are now generating a significant portion of their revenue from night tours, and entirely new businesses have emerged to serve this demand. Ghost tours, culinary night walks, astrophotography expeditions, nocturnal wildlife safaris, and immersive theatrical experiences set in historic locations are all thriving categories that barely existed as formal tourism products a decade ago. Technology is playing a crucial role in making all of this possible. Augmented reality applications allow visitors to see historical events projected onto city streets after dark. Drone light shows have replaced fireworks in many destinations, offering programmable, reusable spectacles that can be customized for different events and audiences. Advanced lighting design has transformed everything from ancient ruins to urban parks into after-dark attractions that are genuinely worth traveling to see. Of course, the rise of night tourism does not come without complications. Light pollution is a genuine concern, and there is an inherent tension between creating illuminated attractions and preserving the natural darkness that makes stargazing destinations so special. Responsible night tourism operators are increasingly aware of this tension and are working to develop experiences that minimize environmental impact while maximizing visitor engagement. Noise pollution is another issue that cities are grappling with. As night tourism grows, so does the potential for conflict between visitors and residents who simply want to sleep. Destinations that have managed this well tend to be those that have invested in thoughtful zoning, clear communication with local communities, and experiences that are designed to be immersive without being disruptive. Safety is a consideration that cannot be overlooked. Traveling after dark in unfamiliar places carries inherent risks, and the best night tourism operators address this directly by providing well-lit routes, trained guides, and clear communication about what travelers can expect. The growth of this sector has also prompted cities to improve their public infrastructure after dark, with better street lighting, extended public transportation hours, and increased security presence in tourist areas. There is also the question of authenticity. As night tourism becomes more commercialized, there is a risk that the very qualities that make after-dark experiences special, the intimacy, the spontaneity, the sense of discovery, could be diluted by overcrowding and overprogramming. The destinations that will thrive long-term are those that manage growth carefully and resist the temptation to simply replicate what has worked elsewhere. Night tourism in 2026 is not a trend in the fleeting sense of the word. It represents a fundamental recalibration of what travel is for and when it happens. The traditional model of the daytime-only tourist is giving way to something richer, more layered, and more attuned to the full personality of a destination. For travelers, this means an entirely new set of possibilities. Trips can be planned around experiences that only exist after sunset. Destinations that seemed familiar can be rediscovered through the lens of darkness. Seasons that were once considered off-peak become prime travel windows for those chasing the longest nights and the clearest skies. For the travel industry, the message is clear. Investing in after-dark infrastructure, programming, and storytelling is no longer optional for destinations that want to remain competitive. The travelers of 2026 are sophisticated, experience-hungry, and increasingly drawn to the idea that the best part of a destination might only reveal itself once the lights come on. And for the world itself, there is something quietly profound about this shift. In an era defined by constant connectivity and relentless daylight productivity, choosing to slow down, step outside, and experience the world after dark feels like a small but meaningful act of reclaiming wonder. Night tourism is not just changing travel. It is reminding us that some of the most extraordinary things in life only happen in the dark. So, whether it's neon cities, night safaris, or glowing beaches, night tourism is clearly becoming a new way to explore the world. Would you travel at night? Or do you still prefer daytime adventures? Let me know in the comments.